Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm so sorry it's been a really long time since I last did a video. I've just been really busy with uni and I've also recently moved house, so there was just a lot of craziness. And in that time I just didn't really have time to sit down and film a video or even just to film a video. But now I do have that time and I thought what better thing to do than to do an updated bookshelf tour. If you watched my channel last year, I did a video called 2023 bookshelf tour. It was all the books on my shelf and I had them in that IKEA squares, but when I moved house I actually changed all my bookshelves, and so I thought I would give you an updated 2024 bookshelf tour. So here you go. So I'm going to start up here with this shelf. So this is the bookshelf from IKEA. I've actually got three. So I've got one here, one over here, and then one over here. Where's some books? But I thought we would start with this shelf. And I've tried to organize it into genre. So at the top we've got kind of some historical fiction, historical romance. Then we go down into dystopian and so on, so on, so on. We will go into all of that later, but I thought we would start up here. So up here I've got all my historical fictions, and so I've got some books on there like Troy by Stephen Fry. If you don't know, he narrated the Harry Potter books, or the British versions. I love this book. I've only read this one by him, I haven't read this one yet. I've got this book called The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Horrow. That's on there. And that's set in 1893. Next we have The Diamond Iron by Kate Quinn. This is a World War II 1943 book, so it's set in Russia, and so that's really good. Next on my shelf I've got the Plated Prisoner series. This is a retelling of Greek mythology, so like King Midas, all over there. Following from that I have book one in the Outlander series. I only have the first one because I don't know where the other ones are, and also I've never read them, so I've only really been interested in the first ones and all that. The next Outlander, I've got my two favourite Jackie French books of all time, which is They Ham and Viking Ships, Tom Appleby Convict Boy. They're my absolute favourites, so they're on here. Then beside that we've got my only Stephen King book, and this is the one that I've been wanting to read for the longest time. I've been trying to find it. This is 11/22/63, and it's about the day that Kennedy was assassinated, and it's kind of like someone goes back in time, so I'm really excited to read that. Then I have The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I've only got the first one so far, but when I get the other ones I'll put them there. And then I've also got this one, but this one is actually fairly new to my collection. I only got it recently. This is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis, and this is, I don't know how to describe it, this is like a historical literary fiction fantasy, I guess you would say. So I've got that. Next to that I've got actually Stalking Jack the Ripper by Kerry Maniscalco. That's the first one in that series. I don't have the other ones yet, but I'm excited. Babel by R.F. Kuang. I have not read this, but I'm really excited. I'm really looking forward to reading this. Then I've got my three kind of Shakespearean retellings. So I've got Prince of Shadows, which is kind of a retelling of Benvolio and Rosaline, who are two characters in Romeo and Juliet. Then I've got the Our Violent Ends and These Violent Delights, which is Romeo and Juliet but in China. And then last on this shelf I've got Bridgerton, and this is the movie cover one. Moving down, this is my dystopian shelf, and as you see I've got quite an array of dystopians. Staying over here I've got The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. Only the first one because I love the movie and I wanted to compare it to the book, so I've only got the first one. Moving across, I've got the, I don't know what this series is called, but it's the Accursed Dark and Lonely trilogy by Bridget Kemmerer. And then I've also got her Defend, or her, I don't know what this one is called, her Kandala trilogy. I've got Defend the Night, So Defy the Night, Defend the Dawn, Destroy the Day. This one was a 4-star read. This one was a 4-star read. This one was 3. This one was 4. Then I've got the Divergent trilogy. I've only ever read the first one, but I can't wait to get into these. Then this is kind of like my young adult dystopian here. So I've got my Red Queen series. Haven't read that yet, but I'm looking forward to it. First 3 in the Shadow Me series. And then I've got the Hunger Games. I don't need to talk to you about that. You all know that. I've got the 100, and I've got Nerve on this shelf as well. Moving down, this is my kind of mystery sci-fi shelf. So I've got this one, and I kind of kept to a theme here, so I got red. So here I've got Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz. I have not read this, but I really want to. Probably one of my new favourite series of all time, The Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This entire series was a 5-star read for me, and I'll highly recommend you read that. Then I've got this series. I don't know what the name of it is called, but I've got this series by V.E. Schwab. Have not read this, but I'm really looking forward to reading this. This is book 1. And then I've got just a standalone, just the Carrie Ann McManus, One of Us is Lying. I didn't want to get all the other books in the series because there's like 12 books, so I just got the first one. And then following on, this is the beginning of my like sci-fi shelf. So I've got the Illuminae Files by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. This is a fabulous kind of like multimedia kind of book. I'd recommend you read that. It's really good. Fragile Threads of Power. This is actually a follow-on story to this trilogy, but you have to read this first before you read that. And I haven't read this yet, so I can't read that. Then this is my four kind of science fiction books. I've got Dune by Frank Herbert. I have not read this, but I'm kind of scared to read it. Winter's Orbit. I've heard one of my favorite booktubers has raved about this, so I'm really looking forward to reading this. Neil Asher. I don't know anything about this series, but it's set in space and it looks really cool. And then finally I've got Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I've only got the first one in this trilogy, but also the 4th book. I've only got the first one in the series, but I hope they'll add to it. And then I've got this nice little plant up here. Now moving down, these next 2 shelves are actually my romance shelves, and they actually got quite a good array of different romances. So I've got the After series by Anna Todd, which you would have seen in my 2023 video. These ones have all got tabs because these were the ones that were published straight off Wattpad, and so all of these little tabs are actually where there are spelling mistakes in the book. So like a word has been spelt wrong, I've gone and tabbed in the book where those words are. I love doing that, so I've done that. Then I come into some romances, but books that I have not read. So I've got Ally, You Have a Bride. This is a newer one to my collection as well. I have not read this, but I think this will be perfect for Halloween. So I'm kind of saving this. I'm kind of saving this one for Halloween. Push it back in. Not going to. I'll put it back in after. Then beside that one we have The 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I've never read this, but one of my favourite booktubers, what's her name? Haley Pham. She's an American booktuber. She raves about this author in this book. And apparently it's a comedy romance, so I'm really looking forward to that. I actually just finished this on Audible and I loved it. This is definitely a 5-star Audible listen for me. This is Just for Summer by Abby Jimenez. Even though I read it on audiobook, I still want to read it because there's something just so satisfying about reading it on paper as well. Then I kind of move into my sports romances. So I've got Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. This book is massive. It's about 700 pages. But I've only got the first one in that series so far. And then I've also got Pucking Around by Emily Rath. And this is a hockey romance. I've never read any sports romances before, so this is very exciting for me. And then next to that we have Mile High by Liz Tomford. Again, she's an author. I've never read anything by her, so I'm excited. Fine Print by Lauren Asher. I've never read a Lauren Asher book, so I'm really excited to read that. And then, of course, I think everyone kind of knows this series, The Selection, which is kind of a dystopian meets The Bachelor, or The Bachelor meets dystopian. So that's that. And then I've got Crazy Rich Asians. Got the movie cover. I love this movie. This book, when I read it, was about a 4-star, but I do want to read it again. Beautiful Creatures and Beautiful Darkness. I've only got the first 2 because I bought these at a book fair and they did not have the third one, but hopefully I'll find the third one soon. So that one is here. Moving on, I've got The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie O. This is the only book I've read by her. This was a definite 5-star read. It is a Korean folklore retelling, and I just truly loved that. Beside that, we've got, this is actually another 5-star read I read. This is If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy. This is a Cinderella retelling where she goes on kind of The Bachelor and meets this guy, but she's not supposed to. That was definitely a 5-star read. I recommend that. And then this is like my young adult kind of romance area. So I've got my 3 Zoe Sugg books. This is her Girl Online series. This one, the spine kind of broke, so that's why I've got them, but they are there. Moving down, I'm going to go this way just because it's easier. I've put this book on here, even though it's technically a non-fiction, but this is the Villain Edit. This is a kind of biography written for one of the ex-contestants of The Bachelor, who was on Honey Badger's season, and this is kind of her story of how she was profiled as the villain and then how she went on to meet her husband. And I love that. I rated that 5 stars. Next, I've got this book, which I've never actually heard anyone talk about. It's called A Million Worlds with You. I'm excited to read it and see what it's about. And then as you can see, I've just got a bunch of very popular books. So I've got Everything, which I loved. The In Between, I have yet to read. Jokes, I have read this book and I really liked it, but I'm definitely going to be reading this again. And I've got the Jenny Han series. Ignore that, that's out of place. Jenny Han's To All the Boys Love Before series. I definitely want to reread this again at some point because it's just so beautiful, so I'm going to do that at some point. Then I've got her The Samurai Turned Pretty trilogy, and I really liked the first one. I didn't like books 2 and 3. They kind of fell very flat for me, so I probably wouldn't read them again, but I really liked the first one. Then Love, Simon. I bought this because of the book, because of the movie. But I don't know if this is the right version because it kind of starts halfway into where the movie starts. So I don't know if this is an advanced copy or if I just got the wrong copy. And then we got Jenny Han. This book is one of my only Emily Henry book. And I've got it out this way because the edges are just so beautiful. But this is My Happy Place by Emily Henry. This is my hardcover version. And it's just such a stunning cover. But I turn it this side because look at how stunning that sprayed edge is. I love sprayed edges, so I'll just display it like that because I just couldn't think of anywhere else to store it. Then I've actually got in here, this is technically a historical fiction, so I could put this on the historical fiction shelf, but I thought it belonged more in here, but it doesn't belong here. I might move it back over. Actually, I might put it up. Maybe I will actually put it up there because it just doesn't quite mix with all the colours. But it kind of looks cool there, so I'll keep it. Then moving across, I've got Heartstopper. Heartstopper's 1 to 5. This is one of my all-time favourite graphic novels. I've recently read, not recently, maybe about 6 years ago, I read Smile, the graphic novel. But this is my first experience with Alice Oseman, and I completely love these books. Moving on, we've got my Ali Hazelwood shelf, apart from Bride, which is at the top. I've got Love Theoretically, Love Hypothesis, and Love on the Brain. I've only actually read the Love Hypothesis, so I've not read the other ones. So I'm excited to get into them once I have finished the book I'm currently reading. Beside that, we've got The Spanish Love Deception. This has actually been on my shelf for about 4 or 5 years, and I've never touched it. But I really want to read this at some point, so I'm really excited to. Then we've got My Life with the Walter Boys. I actually just read this I just finished this book, and then I moved into this one kind of as a break before I went into the third one of that series, which I'll show you in a minute. So that was just up here, and that was just a really fun, quick-paced book, and I really loved that. This is probably my new all-time favorite romance ever. This is Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This is probably my new favorite LGBTQ romance I've ever read. Even if this is the only book of hers I'll ever read, this is probably my new favorite book by her, and I love the movie. It's one of my favorite movies ever. Then moving on, kind of a controversial choice here, we've got the 50 Shades trilogy. I've only ever actually read book 1, but I'm really looking forward to reading these again, to doing my reread, but I'm just a bit nervous to what people will think when they see me in that on the shelf. Moving down, this is actually all my housemates' books, and they're just a bunch of Spanish language books. I'm not going to go through them because they're in Portuguese, and I don't know Portuguese, so. Moving on down here, this is just a little mismatch shelf. So I've got just some like textbooksy things. I've got like a couple of Harry Potters, like the History of Magic, a book on makeup, and then books about animals, and then I've actually got my BTS book here. And then I've just put also in here the cover of the book I'm reading, just because it's kind of getting a little bit broken. And then there's just some cookbooks down there. Last shelf of this set of shelves, this houses all of my Sarah J Maas, as you can tell. So I've got her Crescent City series. I'm currently reading book 3, which is why there's a gap there. Then I've got the Throne of Glass series. This is one of my favorite series by her. I actually think this is my favorite series by her. But in particular, this book. I think this book is my absolute favorite in this series, or maybe even this one. These two are kind of tying for my favorite. And then of course we have the series that everyone knows, which is her ACOTAR series. I've just got them in the end here, and then I've got at the end here, because it doesn't really fit anywhere else, is her Assassin's Blade. This is the only one I haven't read from this series, so I really need to do that at some point. That's the only one I have left in that kind of in my Sarah J Maas world, after House of Flame and Shadow, which I'm currently reading. So that was that whole first shelf complete. So now I'm actually going to move over to the second bookshelf, which is all the way over here. This one houses my fantasy, my literary fiction, and some random Australian fictions, young adult, and a bunch of other random ones. So we're going to start up here. Over here we've got two kind of movie books. This is Wolfblood. I've got those two books. They're based on a TV show. I really like them, so I've got them there. Legendborn, I have not read this by Tracy Dion, but I'm really looking forward to reading it. This book, I've got this. This is Nowhere Boys by Elsie McCreed. She actually wrote this for the show. So the show came out, she actually wrote that after, because it's word for word what the characters say. This series, I've got the Summoners series. This is a really fantastic series. I would highly recommend it. And then, of course, I've got my Lynette Noni Shrine. She's perhaps one of my favourite kind of fantasy authors, or young adult fantasy. So we've got her Whisper and Weapon duology. These ones are kind of a letdown for me, not gonna lie. These weren't my favourites of hers. This book of this two series are my absolute favourite. Particularly, I love her Madoran Chronicles, so this series. I have yet to read the We Three Heroes, the only one I haven't read. This whole series is incredible. This is incredible, and this is incredible. And then I have the Elemental series by Bridget Kemmerer, but it wouldn't fit on the other shelf, which is why it's over there. Moving down, I've got kind of my kind of more fantasy continuation dystopian shelf. I don't know what you call this, but this is the Gone series by Michael Grant. It's kind of violent action, so that's why I got them here, along with these ones. I've got my book journal at the top and my kind of press. Moving down, this is my non-fiction animal shelf. It's mainly shark books, as you can see. But I've got, over here I've got my little Harry Potter bus, the night bus with my characters, hello. I've got a gemstone just sitting on top because I thought it looks cool. Then I've got these shark books. I've got Sharks Attack by Blake Chapman. She is a shark attack survivor. I've also got this one by Tim Flannery and Emma Flannery. This one by Tom. I didn't like this one at all. I just recently read this one and I really loved this one. This one was so good. Another one I've yet to read is Resurrecting the Shark. Another one I didn't particularly care for. Also, I haven't read it yet, but I'm not sure I'm going to like it. This one by Paul de Gelder. He's the Navy diver who lost his leg in Sydney Harbour. This book is stunning. I love it. This one, again, was a disappointment. Didn't like this one. I haven't read these two yet, The Working Dogs and The Free the Bears, mainly because I'm kind of worried that they're going to be sad that I haven't read them. And then one of my friends actually got me this for Christmas as a secret Santa a couple years ago, and it's one of my favorites. It's absolute 5-star read. 5-star read. Moving down, this is more of my high stakes, hard-end fantasy. That makes sense. I've got The Serpent and Dove, book 1. I've only got the first one, but I don't know if I'm going to like it, so I'll just put it at the end because my sister actually wanted to give this to me as a present a few years ago. She said she didn't like it, so she wasn't sure if I was going to like it, but I'm going to give it a go. She also gave me Tersil and Eleanor, which I have not read yet. This is part of the Sabriel, the Garth Nix universe of like the Sabriel. I don't know what that book's called, but I've got that one. I've got The Tower of Fools by, I don't know how to say his name, Andrzej Spazgowarski. He was the author of The Witcher. I have not read this, but I'm really looking forward to reading him. I really want to dive into that one. Another Alexandra Bracken, I've got Silver in the Bone. This one just looks really, really interesting, and I love books with swords on the cover, so it's interesting to me. This is a book I haven't heard many people talk about. This is The Darkening by Sonia Mara. I haven't heard many people talk about this at all, and there's not many reviews of it on Goodreads. I'm kind of nervous, but I'm excited. Throne of the Fallen by Kerri Maniscalco. This takes place in the universe of the Kingdom of the Wicked, but it takes place after, so you have to read that first before you read this one, and I haven't read that, so I need to read that after. Then I've got this one from Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the From Blood and Ash, but I think I got maybe a dud copy because this one's really heavy. I don't know if it's just the pages or the material, but it's really heavy to hold. Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I have read the second one and I hated it, so that's why I've only got the first one on my shelf, and I really didn't like the second one. Tonight I Burn by Catherine J. Adams. This is the first book in a trilogy. I haven't read this yet, but I'm really looking forward to. And then I've got, of course, the Cruel Prince series by Holly Black. I've read this entire series. This one, I didn't particularly like it. I just thought he wasn't that cruel. This one actually was my favourite. The last one, I really liked that one. And these two I didn't particularly care for. I thought that they could have done more. Bone series, I haven't read this yet, but I really, really want to. I'm excited. This book, I'm pretty sure you guys can all guess what this book is. I think the animal on the front is kind of a giveaway. But this is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent in hardcover. I saw this at Harry Hartog the other day, and I saw the snake cover. I was like, oh, have to have it, so I've got that. Beside that, I've got In the Serpent's Wake by Rachel Hartman. This has been on my shelf for maybe 6-7 years, and I've never touched it. But I'm going to make myself read it. Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I've had so many amazing things about this book, and I'm going to read it before the year finishes. And then I've got Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I've heard so many good reviews about this, but I've also heard bad reviews, but I'm still really looking forward to reading it. And then at the end here, I've got Bookshops and Bone Dust. I thought the covers looked really cute, and I can't wait to read that. Moving down, this is my, as you can guess, Cassandra Clare shrine. There are a few more books at the end, but we'll get to them later. This is my Cassandra Clare shrine. I've got her entire City of Bones. I've got her Infernal Devices and her... what is this one? Last Hours books. Now, I do have to admit something to you guys. I've only ever read this one. And I've only read this one probably about 10 years ago. This is the only book I've ever read. But I've watched the TV show, so that's why I'm kind of been putting off reading them. I've kind of gotten them for that kind of collector purpose, especially because they came in the newer covers. That's why I don't have this one in the old cover, because they did a republish of it, and it's the one where all the spines match. But I really liked the old covers, and so when I went to a book fair a few years ago and I found all of these, I found literally every single one of these in the old covers. I bought them. I did buy, and I also got this one as well. And then I've got Clockwork Infernal Devices, a Clockwork Angel. These ones are shorter because they're a bit older. Then I've got this trilogy. I know it's out of height order, don't come at me. I've got the Bane Chronicles. I haven't read that, but I really want to. So that is all of my books there. Then I've just got some random kind of books that didn't really fit anywhere else. So I've got the Aurora Cycle books by J. Christopher Amy Kaufman. I've only read the first one. I actually DNF'd the first one. Probably about 20 pages in, I actually DNF'd it, but I'm going to give it another go. And then I've got the Zeros series by Scott Westerfield. I recently watched his new movie Uglies, and I can't wait to read this again. Down here, this is my literary fiction section. So I've got, of course, Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I've not read this, but I really, really want to. I've got Again But Better by Christina Riccio. This book, 5 stars. Absolutely 5 stars. You have to read this. Lola in the Mirror by Trent Doughton. I've never read this, but my dad's a really big fan of him, so that's why I bought that. I bought this the other day because it just looked really interesting, but I've never heard anyone talk about it. It's A Letter to the Luminous Deep, and literally the whole book is told in letters. So if I open it, if I show you, literally every page is people sending letters. Every page, someone sends a letter. So the whole book is told through someone writing letters. And I thought that was such a genius concept. So I can't wait to read that. Yellow Face by R.F. Kuang. I started it the other day and then I closed it before I even read the first sentence because I changed my mind. So I'm going to read that. Sticks and Stones by Catherine Fricken. I definitely really want to read this. This looks really good. It's like an Australian murder mystery. Never Ending Story by Michael Ende. I love the movie. I've also only read the part 1 of this, so I want to read it again. This book, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. 10 stars. If there was such a thing as 10 stars, this book would get it. This book is probably my favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid book that I've read. Yes, I've only read this one, but it's putting me on the path of loving her books, and I've been trying to hype up myself to find another book that's as good as this one. She does have a few other books, but none of them have piqued my interest as much as this one has, so that's why I've kind of put off reading her other books. This one here is The Absolute Book by Elizabeth Knox. Again, I've never heard anyone talk about this book, but the cover just looked stunning. So that's why I'm showing it, but it's kind of breaking a little bit. So I'm thinking I might actually change it and do this one instead. Oops, I've just ruined the shelf. Give me 1 second. Pick it up. Alright, there we go. We'll do that for now. So we've got the Taylor Jenkins Reid there. And then over here we've got The White Devil. This is by Paul Hoffman. This is like a military fiction. I've never read it, but I really, really want to. Scrublands, and then I've kind of got here my 3 kind of movie ones, the ones that I've turned into movies or TV shows. Scrublands by Chris Hammer, 5 stars. This is really good and the movie is incredible. The Night Agent by Matthew Kirk was also 5 stars, and the movie is 10 stars. 5-star TV show, so 5-star book and 5-star TV show, 10-star book and 10-star movie. Red Sparrow, I haven't read this in a long time, but it's a really beautiful book. And I've got only the first 2 books in this series, so I couldn't find the 3rd one, but I've got Joanne Hathaway's Dark of the West and Storm of the East. This was recommended to me by a movie YouTuber called Dylan, and he basically recommended this book because he said that this is his friend and he's actually in the acknowledgements of that. Now over here, this is probably my most confusing series ever, because this is essentially a non-linear set of books. I don't even know how to describe them, and they're out of order, so I will fix that at some point. But essentially you start over here with Every Heart a Doorway, and then it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know. There's an order that it goes, but this is a really confusing series. A lot of these books when I read them were 4 stars, but then probably also half of them were 3 stars. So this is like a 2, 3, and 4 star series for me, unfortunately. Moving down, we just got some more fantasy books that wouldn't fit. So I've got Murtagh and Eragon. I've only read this one. I haven't continued on with the series, but we kind of don't really have to. So I've just got Eragon and Murtagh. I want to read that one. Then I've got then I've got my Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. I have read both, and this one's really good. This one was really good as well. And then over here we've got Empire the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. I haven't read this, but I really want to. And then down here we've got my Matthew Reilly Shrine. Matthew Reilly for me is an author. I literally buy everything that he has. There's probably 1 or 2 books that I don't have, and that's because those ones just unfortunately they didn't sound like what I expected he would write. So I've got all of his like military ones, like you've got the 7 Ancient Wonders. I've got all of those ones, and then I've actually got like some of these standalones. So this one's a standalone, this one's a standalone. These ones actually go together, but they just didn't fit on that. And then we've got this one and another standalone as well. This one is 7 Ancient Wonders. This is the start of a series, and you actually read it like you would a Star Wars series. So 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you go backwards order, essentially. And then we've got Area 7. This is one I started and then DNF, so I'm going to read that again. I did also have Contest on here, but then I learned that was one they self-published, and I wasn't interested in that one, so I just didn't bring it. Moving on, we got one more shelf. I know, it's been a long, crazy ride, but we got one more shelf. We got this last shelf over here. This is kind of like my study desk shelf. And this one just has actually some extra young adult. This is like young adult. And then just some university stuff and some books that I bought today, actually. So we're going to start down here. Down here I've got The Crimson Moth. I've never heard anyone talk about this book, but apparently it's supposed to be good. And I've got my Zoe Sugg books, The Magpie Society. These are really good. Songbird of Snakes, really good. Vampire Academy, I've only ever read the first one, but I want to read all of them. Ash Princess Trilogy, this one was really good, and this one was really good. This one was terrible. This one, The Elfstones of Shannara, I've only got the second book because that's the one that the TV show is based on, and I loved the TV show. So I've got this one. Quarantine by Lex Thomas. I have not reread this, mainly because I'm worried that it's going to bring back lots of memories when we all had to quarantine for COVID. Whoops, I've got Renegade by J.A. Saunders. I've read this once and I really loved it. Magic Faraway Tree, I've kind of just kept a hold of this. I've never read it, but I just feel it's like a staple that you have to have on your shelf, so I've just got that one. Maze Runner, I love this. I'm going to read the whole series. I've never read this series, but it's been on my shelf for years. Kingdom Wicked, a more recent one. Again, I want to read that one. Wicked Fox, I want to read this one so badly. Again, this is another one I've had on my shelf for years and years and years, and this is like a sentimental one, so I'll never, ever, 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 ever get rid of it. This is beyond the